Hello, I'm your reader Mary, here with you today, August 20th, 2024, with the New Bedford Standard Times. Let's start with the weather. Today will be breezy and not as warm, a refreshing 76 and a low of 55. Wednesday, cloudy and sunny, but with possibility of a shower. High of 73, low of 56. Thursday will be partly sunny and pleasant, once again in the 70s, high of 74, low of 54. Friday, some warmth will creep back. Sunny, partly cloudy, high of 80 and a low of 59. And for the weekend, Saturday, plenty of sunshine, high of 82 and a low of 63. Let's check out the front page. Our first story from the front page, who has the cheapest groceries? From the Standard Times, Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump agree on very little as they battle to become president. That's also the case when it comes to what to blame for high grocery store prices. Harris has said she will take on price gouging on the first day of her presidency, while Trump proposes imposing a 10% tariffs on all products imported into the U.S. from overseas. With so many important issues to consider, there's so much to focus on, but for many families, grocery prices are a major cause for concern. While we're not here to debate the merits of the arguments put forward by either of the candidates for president, we did take a look around the South Coast at grocery prices to see which chain is the cheapest. What was on our grocery list? Well, we visited 6 supermarket chains. On August 12th, with a shopping list on a search for the lowest prices, we were looking for 6 kitchen staples an average family might buy. Milk, 1 gallon whole milk, eggs, a dozen large eggs, either brown or white, bread, a 20-ounce loaf of white or wheat bread, bananas, 1 pound, ice cream, 1.5 quart carton, and chicken boneless, skinless breast, packaged not frozen, 1 pound. To maintain consistency, we stuck with store-brand products, but there were many organic options to choose from if that's your preference. Which stores did we survey? Price Right Marketplace at 139 Hathaway Road, New Bedford. Market Basket at 122 Sawyer Street, New Bedford. Shaw's at 15 State Road, Dartmouth. Aldi at 200 North Dartmouth Road, Dartmouth. Stop and Shop at 221 Huddleston Avenue, Fairhaven. And Walmart at 42 Fairhaven Commons, Fairhaven. Which grocery stores were the least and the most expensive? Well, the grocery store on this list that was the least expensive was the Aldi's at Dartmouth Mall, with the 6 items totaling $13.83. Price Right Marketplace was the cleanest store and the second least expensive at $15.50. And Stop and Shop was the most expensive at $20.62. Shaw's was just a close second at 8 cents less. Since Walmart Fairhaven does not sell chicken, it's not fair to count it in with the other stores, but we still want you to know the prices of the other items sold there. Also, the bananas at Walmart were sold in 3-pound bunches. The New Bedford Chowder Fest is returning. How do you get tickets? Well, get your tasting spoons ready. Chowder Fest is back with your favorite South Coast restaurants serving up their signature chowders and soups. Seafood connoisseurs, it's your turn to put your taste buds to the test at the 19th annual Blount Fine Foods New Bedford Seaport Chowder Fest from noon to 5, Saturday, October 12th, City Pier 3 in the Port of New Bedford. Fun for all ages, you get to sample mouth-watering chowders and soups and then cast your vote for your favorite out of the bunch. Throughout the tasting, Be Kind Rewind, an ultimate tribute to the 1990s alternative rock, will be providing entertainment. Participating food vendors signed up so far are The Black Whale, Merrill's on the Waterfront, Mimi's Kitchen, Care One New Bedford, Quahog Republic Whalers Tavern, The Tipsy Toboggan, and Rustico. Moby Dick Brewing Company will be a participating drinks vendor. VIP tickets can be had at the Black Whale. VIP ticket holders get early access to the festival at 11 a.m., along with concierge service, exclusive tastings from the Black Whale menu, and a free beverage. While you relax on the Black Whale's VIP deck, Got Chew will provide you with samples of your choosing from the Chowderfest tent. VIP tickets are available for pre-sale only at $75 a ticket and can be purchased at https://onesouthcoast.com/chowderfest/. How much are general admission tickets? Tickets are $15 in advance and $5 on the day of. $5 for children ages 6 to 12 and free for 5 and younger. Tickets are available online at www.onesouthcoast.com/chowderfest. Parking for the event is limited. There will be free shuttle rides by SRTA from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Whale's Tooth parking lot at 532 Acushnet Avenue, New Bedford. Voting ends at 3 p.m. Chowderfest will announce the winner of the, quote, People's Choice Awards and the, quote, Best of winners at 4 p.m. There are 2 voting parties, the Judges and the People's Choice Awards, with categories including Best Clam/Seafood Chowder, Best Portuguese Specialty Soup, Best Signature Soup, and Best Booth Presentation. Last year's first-place Judges' Choice winners were Mimi's Kitchen for Best Portuguese Specialty Soup, Cove Surf and Turf for Best Signature Chowder, and the Black Whale for Best Clam/Seafood Chowder. People's Choice winners from last year were Cove Surf and Turf for Best Portuguese Specialty Soup, the Black Whale for Best Signature Soup, and the Black Whale for Best Clam/Seafood Chowder. And our last story from the front page, Chicago braces for convention protests. The city's 12,000 police officers said they were ready. The Secret Service said it was ready. Local leaders say they were ready. Residents, maybe not so much. An estimated 50,000 delegates, politicians, and party activists are expected to attend the Democratic National Convention in Chicago over the course of the week, with possibly tens of thousands of demonstrators marching through the streets. Amplifying concerns, the convention is happening amid the war in the Middle East. It follows the July 13th attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump, as well as mass transit sabotage during the Paris Olympics. On the eve of the convention, non-scalable steel fences, barricades, and parked snowplows were already limiting movement in key downtown areas, with helicopters buzzing overhead. Dozens of officers on bikes wearing lighted helmets patrolled after dark, causing many onlookers to reach for their camera phones. Grumpy business owners worried about lost sales, while some residents and tourists said it appeared overblown. Montana tourist Kai Lee, 29 years old, wondered Saturday if all the precautions were necessary. I understand the security concerns. It's for everybody's safety, but it looks a bit barbaric, Lee said. On Sunday evening, in first formal demonstration of the convention week, a small crowd of protesters waved flags as they marched down Michigan Avenue. At times, they were outnumbered by police officers on bikes who hemmed the group in. Free, free, free Palestine, the peaceful group chanted to the sound of banging drums and whistles as curious tourists watched from the sidewalk. Other marchers carried signs supporting abortion access and LGBTQ rights. Similar to the Republican National Convention held last month in Milwaukee, the Democratic National Convention is a national special security event with Secret Service in charge. That means significant road closures, vehicle searches, and, closer to the event sites, TSA-style screenings. In preparation for the convention, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson stood with Chicago police, saying the city would not tolerate any chaos from protesters. Johnson, a former organizer for the city's teachers union, rode into office on a wave of support from the very activists planning to protest at the convention. Let me be absolutely clear. The city of Chicago is ready to host the 2024 Democratic National Convention, said John Robertson. He's the city's chief operating officer. We are here in this moment to show that Chicago can shine. We are here to demonstrate that in this moment we can host the most democratic of activities and to provide space and room for the full expression of our First and Fourth Amendment rights. The closures will impact area businesses seeking to cash in. At Su Taqueria El Rey del Taco, near the United Convention Center, workers braced for a rush of conventioneers and were prepared to bike in if the car screenings took too long. We're going to be open for business, said cashier Chris Garcia. On Saturday, she said, we're excited and ready to go. At the taqueria, neighborhood residents Maida Contreras and Jackie Martinez said they hoped the city was indeed prepared. I've already told my family don't even think about coming over, Contreras said. Both worried about mayhem and destruction, recalling riots and damage after George Floyd's murder 4 years ago. We want everything to remain contained, and we don't want to see anything violent or serious happen. Chicago is no stranger to street protests. It has hosted 25 nominating conventions since 1860, the most of any city, including most notably, for activists, the Democratic Convention in 1968. This year, protest groups have been pushing Chicago officials for more space and time to demonstrate. They've argued in court that the city is illegally limiting their constitutional rights. City officials required large groups to get permits to march and limited the marches to certain streets and restricted protesters' ability to rally in parks and other public spaces. Initial permit requests suggested as many as 6,000 people could march on Monday alone, according to court filings, and organizers expected close to 10,000. That said, a, quote, march on the RNC protest in Milwaukee last month was projected to draw 5,000 people, but only 500 showed. As of Sunday, groups receiving permits ranged from the Coalition for Reproductive Justice and LGBTQ+ Liberation to the U.S. Palestinian Community Network. The city also established a, quote, speaker platform at a park a few blocks north of the United Center. Experts said the Gaza-focused, quote, March on the DNC 2024 will be the largest demonstration in Cook County. Cook County, home to Chicago, is also home to the country's biggest Palestinian-American community. Organizers are pushing for the Democrats to end Israel's war in Gaza, reduce mass incarceration, and limit migrant deportations. Police Superintendent Larry Snelling also reassured residents his officers would still patrol the city. Police from Milwaukee and other cities are helping provide security inside the convention. It is not forgotten that we have a city to protect. It's not just around the venues covering the DNC, Snelling said. The Chicago Police Department will be in every single neighborhood, protecting the neighborhoods. Since we're almost at the halfway mark, let's see what we have for obituaries and memorials. We've got Robert W. Dwyer, age 78, passed away in New Bedford, Mass. On August 17th. Arrangements are made at Saunders Dwyer Home for Funerals, and the service time will be August 22nd at 4 p.m. We've got a obituary for Michael L. Tomlinson. Mike John Tomlinson passed away peacefully on Saturday, August 17th, 2024, surrounded by his close family. Born in New Bedford, Mass. In 1943 to John and Florence Tomlinson, he was known for his wonderfully curious mind, smiling baby blue Irish eyes, a passion for anything golf, boating, the Minnesota Vikings, and an intense love of family and friends. His most obvious love, though, was for his devoted and adoring wife of 31 and a half years, Sharon Barboza Tomlinson. She was and is his soulmate. It was obvious for all to see that they were each other's person. He cherished his family above all else and was proud of his children. He was a proud resident of New Bedford for most of his life until relocating to Spring Hill, Florida, and ultimately Melbourne, Florida. He was a member of the Holy Family High School class of 1960 and always considered an extended family. Mike lived a life of volunteerism and service, starting as an altar boy at St. James, a longtime New Bedford Gridiron Club member, a Little League announcer, and a golf tournament marshal. He retired after 30 years as a longtime IBEW 2322 brother from his job at New England Telephone and ultimately Verizon, where he met and made many lasting friendships that lasted well beyond his working years. A celebration of life will be held at a future time in the New Bedford, Mass. area. In lieu of flowers, please consider a donation to the St. Jude Children's Hospital in his name. And we also have an in memoriam in loving memory of Luz Delia Riviera, 8257 to 10/18/07. On your birthday and all the days, we miss you more than words can say. In our hearts, you will always stay. Loved and remembered every night and day. Your loving family, Nelson Sr., Cindy and Matt Nelson Jr., and Virginia, Nikwisha and the grandkids, and your great-granddaughters. Moving on in the paper, out of Fall River, man sentenced for scamming Freetown family out of $12,000. A man was convicted last week in Fall River District Court of scamming a Freetown family out of $12,000 for a pool installation that was never completed. Jeffrey Trifone, 51, was sentenced by Judge David Sorrenti to serve 2 years in the Bristol County House of Corrections after being convicted of larceny over $250. According to the Bristol County District Attorney's Office, the victim told the police on March 2021 he contacted Trifone of Pool Solutions about installing a swimming pool at his home. At some point, Trifone picked up the victim and took him to different job sites to show him work he had allegedly done on other swimming pools. That's according to a release from the DA. In April of 2021, they met at the victim's home and executed a contract for a 16 by 32 kidney-shaped in-ground swimming pool, which was expected to be completed by July 2021. The victim gave Trifone a $12,000 check as a deposit, which was then cashed. According to the DA's office, the victim reported that after his check was cashed, Trifone stopped responding to calls and texts, and no work was completed, no materials ordered or delivered to his home. The victim tried to contact Trifone for several months with no response. This defendant was contracted to install a pool, but had no intention of ever doing the work. He has also defrauded others who testified at trial. I would like to commend the prosecution for doing a very thorough and effective job in putting the case together. I hope the verdict gives the victim some consolation and that the defendant was held accountable for his fraudulent representations and theft of $12,000. That was a statement from District Attorney Thomas M. Quinn III. Out of New Bedford, a Bridgewater man was fatally shot in New Bedford on Saturday morning. Police are investigating the shooting homicide of a Bridgewater man early Saturday morning. The Bristol County District Attorney's Office said a New Bedford police officer received 911 calls at 12:47 a.m. Saturday regarding men fighting and an apparent gunshot in the area of 36 Acushnet Avenue. First responders upon arrival located Nicholas Miller, 26, of Bridgewater, suffering from an apparent gunshot wound. He was rushed to St. Luke's Hospital, where he was pronounced dead at 2:42 a.m. Massachusetts State Police detectives assigned to the District Attorney's Office and the New Bedford Police and Homicide Unit and prosecutors are investigating the homicide. Survey: prices put brakes on EV demand. More drivers are buying them, but electric cars still make up a small share of the market in Rhode Island. A new survey from AAA Northeast of drivers in the Ocean State and its neighbors raised questions about how fast the electric vehicle market share will grow, even as state and federal lawmakers pass policies that aim to electrify the transportation sector and cut greenhouse gas emissions. More than half of the 1,749 AAA members from Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, and New Jersey who responded to the survey said they never planned to buy a fully electric vehicle, and nearly as many said they would not even consider a plug-in hybrid. What's stopping drivers from buying an electric vehicle? The main barriers to buying appear to be the prices of EVs, which, despite coming down, are still higher on average than those of gas-powered cars, as well as concerns about access to charging stations and the time it takes to recharge batteries. What's interesting is that this is an area of the country with an above-average market share of electric vehicles, and we're still seeing this resistance. That's a quote from Jillian Young, Director of Public Relations for AAA Northeast. The survey also found that a big chunk of the driving population still needs convincing about the merits of EVs. While some respondents expressed a lack of familiarity with electric cars, a quarter of them said they were not confident in even being able to drive one. Others say they were put off by long charging times at public stations. On the former issue, Young said there's a fear of the unknown, and that a solution may simply be better education. As to the latter, she said that drivers who currently own EVs primarily rely on charging at home, where time isn't as much of an issue. All new car sales in Rhode Island will need to be electric cars by 2035. The results of this survey, released on August 15th, come as Rhode Island moves to adopt clean car standards modeled on those in California that aim to phase out the sale of new gas-powered cars by requiring auto dealers to annually ramp up their offerings of zero-emission vehicles. Under the regulations, all new cars for sale would be electric by 2035. In AAA, a nonprofit auto club has not taken a position on those rules. The standards are an essential part of the McKee administration's strategy to cut emissions for transportation, which accounts for nearly 40% of the greenhouse gases in Rhode Island. The Act on Climate Change state law enacted 3 years ago requires that the state gradually cut its carbon footprint in the coming years, with the ultimate goal of reaching net zero emissions by 2050. To encourage the adoption of more electric cars, the state is offering incentives to reduce the cost of electric cars and charging equipment. As of July 1st, there were 12,272 electric vehicles in Rhode Island. That's according to the State Department of Environmental Management. Is there an upshot? Well, if there's good news for policymakers in the AAA survey, it's that 15% of the respondents said they already own a fully electric car or hybrid, and another 44% said they expected to buy one at some point. Young said that AAA conducted the survey to understand consumer trends in the market. We want to understand what the general public thinks about the auto market, and electric vehicles are a big piece of that. We hope this data informs policymakers as well. Ernesto is causing dangerous conditions along the East Coast. As Hurricane Ernesto churned in the North Atlantic, hundreds of miles from the continental U.S., the storm on Monday was still producing dangerous swells and rip current conditions along the entire eastern seaboard as it approached Newfoundland. Beachgoers should be aware there is a significant risk of life-threatening surf and rip currents and should stay out of the water if advised by lifeguards. That's a statement by the National Hurricane Center. They also added that treacherous conditions are forecast to abate in the later half of the week. Officials blamed Ernesto, which strengthened back into a hurricane on Sunday after lashing Bermuda, for the deaths of 3 people over the weekend. 2 men drowned off the coast of South Carolina's Hilton Head Island, while in Surf City, North Carolina, a swimmer was found unresponsive on Saturday. Across North Carolina beaches over the weekend, dozens of people were rescued from rip currents, while at least 1 home collapsed and was swallowed up by the big waves. Ernesto was located 340 miles southeast of Halifax, Nova Scotia, and 580 miles southwest of Cape Race, Newfoundland, on Monday. According to the Hurricane Center's 5 a.m. update, the Category 1 storm has sustained winds of 85 miles per hour and was racing north-northeast at 21 miles per hour. The storm is forecast to swipe Newfoundland on Monday night and Tuesday before moving quickly across the Atlantic and lashing the British Isles by Wednesday night. That's according to the Hurricane Service and AccuWeather. On Saturday, the storm knocked out power for most residents across Bermuda, but officials expressed relief that Ernesto was only a Category 1 storm when it bore down on the territory. While trees were uprooted and debris was scattered across Bermuda, no major damages or injuries were reported. Ernesto's most dangerous conditions remain the surf and rip currents, though it was expected to bring rain, heavy wind, and big waves to southeastern Newfoundland as early as Monday night. Large breaking waves could bring the possibility of coastal flooding, particularly along southwest-facing shorelines from Burn to East Avalon regions. That's according to the Hurricane Center. AccuWeather forecasters said the southeast corner of Newfoundland, including St. John's, could see wind gusts of 40 to 60 miles an hour, while Cape Race could receive gusts as high as 100 miles an hour. About 1 to 4 inches of rain were forecast to fall across the province, and local maximum amounts of 8 inches were possible according to AccuWeather. Ernesto is then expected to race across the Atlantic and bring significant rain and wind to the British Isles by Wednesday. Though Ernesto is forecast to weaken, it will be a formidable tropical wind and rainstorm when it begins pushing north of London, impacting cities including Dublin and Glasgow. AccuWeather forecasters said, depending on how much of the storm survives the trek across to the UK, parts of northwestern Europe could see stormy conditions late this week. And finally, sweet potatoes are a healthy, delicious part of your diet. Did you know that there are over 4,000 varieties of potatoes in the world? They come in different shapes, colors, and another 180 species of wild potatoes. That's according to the International Potato Center. They could be French fries, mashed potatoes, baked potatoes. What's not to love? While the regular white potato is an American favorite, sweet potatoes are another popular choice. This versatile starchy veg is great in sweet or savory dishes and can also be fried, baked, mashed, or hashed. But what kind of nutritional value do they bring? Sweet potatoes are healthy vegetables, and they have a lower glycemic index than regular potatoes. They're a good source of fiber, beta-carotene, that's a pigment found in orange and yellow fruits and veg, and vitamin A. Vitamin A is important for eye and skin health and immune system support. A good rule of thumb is the more colorful the vegetable, the more antioxidants you're getting, and antioxidants neutralize the free radicals in our body, which cause cell damage and disease when imbalanced. So, sweet potatoes are good carbs, also called complex carbs. Healthier than regular potatoes, and could be healthy for weight loss. And that, my friends, is the New Bedford Standard Times today, August 20th, 2024. I'm your reader, Mary, wishing you a good week, be well, and we'll talk again next week.